Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another episode of the 12th Man podcast with my regular Owen Killian. And tonight we're going to be looking ahead to the Manchester Derby and the rest of the Premier League's action this weekend. Before we do, we're going to be looking back at the FA Cup, some big stories, including Liverpool's kids keep on impressing, Haaland and De Bruyne's demolition job on Luton, Chelsea's 3-2 throw against Leeds, and of course Manchester United's controversial goal against Forest, which drew parallels with Van Dijk's disallowed goal on Sunday. We're going to be debating that with one because I know he's got a what they say on it.
Same referee as well, it was.
Same referee from Greater Manchester right here. But we'll get into all that. Before we look back at the FA Cup, we'll speak a little bit about the Manchester Derby because it is the headline game this weekend, and we will come back to it. We will just do a quick opening on it. But, has this fixture lost its gloss? You think back to when the back end of Ferguson, Mancini, now you think about it, it's almost become, I don't want to say like a Liverpool Everton, but everybody expects Man City to beat Man United every year now, both games.
I was just before you said it, I was gonna say it sort of feels like Liverpool Everton in a way. Obviously, it's a bit bigger, but as you say, we're going into this game at the weekend. Obviously, I hope United can do something, which just that's dirty they say that, but hey, it needs must. But
hey, if you're desperate, you're desperate. You know what I mean?
When you go into these games now, you just expect Man City to win quite comfortably, and I can't say anything different come Sunday.
Well, we will come back to talk about the Manchester Derby, of course. Let's look back over the last couple of nights. The FA Cup started on Monday night, actually, with Coventry playing Maidstone. But the bulk of the action came Tuesday night and Wednesday night. Suppose we'll touch on last night first. It was another game for Liverpool. They had to come down from the euphoria of Sunday, how they won it. And look, hey, people can criticise the League Cup. But, I've seen Liverpool fans dancing on the street corners there on Sunday night. And you could say maybe it was down to how they won it. But I seen them when they beat Chelsea in penalties the last time, they were very happy. And, a trophy is not to be sneezed at. You just talk to Spurs fans, I'm telling you. Do you think that League Cup, it's discredited, but really there is a lot of, there should be a lot of praise because it is a trophy on offer and you still have to beat good teams they want.
It's a trophy. It's always a strange one with the League Cup. It's like if you go out of it early rounds, you're not really bothered. But if you get into like the quarters and the semis, you're like, right, it's a trophy here, let's go for it. And that's sort of how I felt. And once we got to that stage of playing Fulham in the semis, you're like, right, let's go on it now. And as you say, Liverpool fans were jubilant on Sunday, but I think as well that it's a trophy. But I think it's the way we won it as well. Just nobody expected young Dans to be on that pitch or Bobby Clark or James McConnell, so it was a mental way they won
it. As you predicted, you expected some changes for the Southampton game. Obviously, being such a quick turnaround, the squad being stretched, but Van Dijk played, but a lot of the young lads that come on off the bench started, the likes of McConnell, the likes of Kumas, Dan's come on and made a big impact, but fair play to Liverpool. It was a tight first half. Southampton had their chances. Liverpool got their goal just before half-time, slight deflection, but, in the end, Liverpool came strong. So, it was another impressive victory for a Liverpool team, which, if you had looked at 6 weeks ago, it was unrecognisable, some of the names playing.
It's like young Kumas as well, first game, first goal, so he'll not forget that. And as you say, like, if we were playing a better team last night, we would have been 3-4-0 down because Southampton played really well, and we had Joe Gomez playing defensive midfield, and that did not work. Southampton were just cutting us open at will, but thankfully before half time, we got the goal, and then that sort of settled us down going into the second half, and then young Dan's settled it. His second goal was well taken, and then his third goal was just a rebound from Conor Bradley's shot, but. Obviously, now it sets up an interesting match for the quarterfinals. So I'm looking forward to that one for St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, we will speak about the quarterfinal draw in a few minutes' time. There is this Owen quite rightly points out. There is a fixture on there that will definitely whet the appetite for a lot of football fans. We'll go back to Tuesday night before we come back to last night because I think the other big story was the Haaland 5 goals against Luton, De Bruyne setting up the first 4. And I think we spoke about this on Tuesday night, me and Stefan. I says I think the worry for Liverpool and Arsenal is when De Bruyne plays Man City or a different team. You think about Luton this year, all their games at Kenilworth Road have been tight. De Bruyne all of a sudden rocks up and they ship 6. I mean, is De Bruyne just on a different level to every player in the Premier League? I know you'll quite really point to Salah and our players, but in terms of how you can control and make a devastating impact, has he done his own in that way?
For me, he's the best midfielder the Premier League has ever seen. Like obviously for me, Gerrard's my favorite ever for obvious reasons, but you can't what De Bruyne does on a football pitch is just special and scary. Like I seen a stat or I seen a thing on Twitter yesterday. He's 12-1 or something. They won the PFA Player of the Year, and he's only played about 3 games, which is nuts. But that just proves how good he can be when he's on form. And I'm hoping. I doubt it, but I'm hoping they play him. I'm hoping they play him on Sunday and then rest him next weekend. But
now Callum makes a good point. Yeah, players they come back, you could argue Salah, but I just think in terms of controlling games, obviously Salah can make a difference in the top end of the pitch. I just think in terms of grabbing the ball by the scruffle and neck, and I mean, one thing you can definitely argue is when De Bruyne plays, Haaland's so much more effective because he's getting so much more service. I mean, if De Bruyne is fit, how many more goals would Haaland have? It's crazy.
What does he have at the moment in the league? He has like 15, 16, I think it is.
17. You're up there. You're near around that, around 17. I think he might be.
I know it's him and Salah's the top 2 anyway, which is mad considering how many games they've both missed.
But no Hurricane in the Premier League this year. They snatch that away from him, I suppose.
It is scary to think of like how good he can be when De Bruyne is fit and available, which is scary as an opposition.
What's your feeling? Right, De Bruyne didn't play against Brentford in the game in hand, the midweek game, because I thought he would have played against. He would then played against Bournemouth. He didn't play against Bournemouth either, so he was rested back-to-back games. I don't even think he come on in both games. He was kept on the bench. Well, that was down to, they felt he didn't need him, but them games were quite tight. Maybe Pep was taking a chance, or maybe there was a fitness issue we're not sure of, but it definitely points to De Bruyne is not going to be playing back-to-back 3 games in a week. Like he was kind of doing last season. They're not going to be able to rely on him as much, but, I mean, what's your feeling? Do you think he'll play this Sunday in the derby, or do you think they'll have their eyes set on Liverpool? Because they do play Copenhagen in midweek, but sure they're already 2-0 up or 3-1 up. Yeah, 3-1 up, so they're cruising on that. So definitely won't play in that game. So where do you think it could be utilised between the next 2 Premier League games?
I think he'll play on Sunday, but I don't think he'll start. I think he'll come on. If it is a tight game, say if it's like 1-0 with 20 minutes to go and they feel like they need a goal to kill it off, I do think they'll bring him on. But if you can win a game and not need Kevin De Bruyne, it just shows the quality of the team they have. And obviously, I think they'll want them fire and fit for next Sunday in Anfield. I think that is the game that they'll have them penciled in for the start, which is not fun for me.
Is that scary? If he doesn't kick an hour ball before Anfield, it comes on fresh, rested. You look at that Liverpool team; they've played a lot of games, a lot of injuries. Does that scare you a wee bit that they could have a massive trump card in that game?
I mean, it doesn't scare me now because you expect Kevin De Bruyne to play in these big games. So I'm not going in there thinking De Bruyne's not going to play. So I'm going to go in there thinking he's going to play. And if he doesn't play or picks up a wee niggle between then that's a bonus. But no, I'm expecting him to play next Sunday.
Let's focus back on last night. It was probably when the draw was done before the games, which I don't agree with because I thought it should have been done afterwards. But they start doing these things now; they start doing them beforehand. Maybe that's down to because I suppose some of the games, like I think the Newcastle Blackburn game, wasn't finished at 11 on Tuesday night. So if there had been an extra time, maybe it was due to I know BBC News and ITV News have their bulletins. Maybe it was something to do with that, but. In a way, I just think it should be done. Even do it the next day if you have to. I think
Carragher said that as well.
We'll be speaking about Carragher too because he said he's been in the news as well. But I
I Ten
mean,
Hag crying.
it looked last night that was going to be, if there was going to be a banana skin, I wouldn't say it would have been a massive shock, but if there was going to be a big team getting knocked out, it was likely you would have thought it would have been United. As bad as Chelsea have been, I didn't really fancy Leeds going to Chelsea, although they did quite well. I didn't see Southampton knocking Liverpool out.
Yeah,
The Wolves Brighton game was a coin toss. There was no real
yeah.
favourite there. So this was the one. I'll tell you what, Forest gave it a right go. But I think towards the last 20 minutes, they tired a wee bit
They're
and
tired of
United come into it. And they looked the more likely. And in the end, it was a bit of a scrappy goal. Now, it's caused all sorts of, Gibbs White was posting last night on Instagram. He says,
it.
what's the difference? Owen, what do you see any difference in these goals? I mean, do you think that both should have stood, both should have been disallowed? How do you feel about it?
Both should have stood, but if one was disallowed, the other should have been. I think it was because Varane was standing offside, so that was sort of the same as Endo as well. So I don't really understand why that wasn't disallowed. But we talk about it, it's consistency, and we don't get it, so move on. Like I'm fed up.
It was a lengthy VAR check. It went on
I
for
took
6 minutes, which is
six.
quite significant. I mean, it does, it does come down to it. I mean, if it isn't clear and obvious, why do they take that long? But I suppose the Liverpool one, for me, the only difference I seen in it was Endo wasn't maybe actively trying to play the ball. I know that Varane was in an offside position, but he didn't really get involved. Whereas Endo, he clearly looked at the player. He wasn't interested in it because he knew he was inactive. I think if Endo had been a bit cuter, he probably would have got away with it. It just looks so obvious in the replay.
I mean, you see these things 10, 15 times a game during set pieces. So we're going to get to a point where we're never going to have a set piece goal if everything keeps getting
nearly every team keeps a player offside for some. That's they try and affect the goalkeeper. They always do it.
Look at what they do against Spurs. They literally stand on the keeper, and Arsenal do the same thing. So it just depends on the ref on the day. And funnily enough, it was the same ref last night, as I said, on the League Cup game. So it's just consistency, isn't
it? That's it. I mean, the hour game last night, which had a lot of history behind it, was the Chelsea Leeds, obviously the 1970 Cup final, which went under a replay. And funny enough, this is described as the most brutal game in football. Only one yellow card, but I'll tell you what, there wouldn't have been a game played if it had been replayed in today's level because there would have been enough players left. Quite interesting. That it's actually on BBC website if you want to have a look at that. The 1970 Cup replay, Chelsea won it in extra time. But some of there's about a 2.5 minute video. Some of the tackles going on. And it's crunching.
Must look at that. I'll look at
Definitely look at it. But Chelsea, who were on the wrong end of a late goal against Liverpool, found themselves on the right end of a late goal, and it was their man Conor Gallagher, who's been one of their best players, if not their player of the season, who has got all this talk surrounding his future.
He probably will be there next season.
Well, that's that. The Chelsea may have to cash in on him. They raise funds due to him being a youth player, 100% profit on the booking sheet. No,
could be going to your mob.
Well, on the way he's playing at the moment, I mean, he would definitely give us something different. I think he's probably having his best season. I mean, I think he's he runs around a lot. He doesn't feel he doesn't deliver a lot, but he's been
probably his best season. It's probably his best season since he was on loan at Palace, I think it was.
Palace, so I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens to him in the summer, and he's going to be going cheaper than he would have been because he's only got a year left. So I'm not sure how much bargaining power Chelsea have. The problem is Gallagher doesn't want to leave. So I mean, going to Spurs, I'm not sure that's a good move for Spurs if they have a player that's too involved with Chelsea. But look, that's a conversation for the summer. I mean, a lot of talk about Pochettino. Out of one cup, but very much in this now on the quarterfinal stage. One more game away from the Wembley. Obviously, it's 2 semi-finals are put at Wembley. All of a sudden, you could look at that draw if Liverpool beat United, which are there, and everyone's talking about Man City's expected to get through. They could draw the winner of Wolves Coventry, and all of a sudden they could be in an hour final. So, I mean, is this Chelsea season now? Because it doesn't look like they're going to be able to salvage much in the league.
They have. Well, they'll probably not put everything into they'll probably not rest people for the league and the cup, but it is their season. It's sort of for me, it's the same with United. It's their season as well, in my opinion, because it's like so for these two teams, United and Chelsea, like they'll be going all out for the FA Cup. Because if Chelsea won it, they're in Europe, and if United won it, they're in Europe. So, I'm fed up.
I think that's the problem. If Chelsea avoid Liverpool, and Man City, and say Liverpool and Man City meet in the hour semi-final, I still think the winner of that'll be Chelsea in the final. So I just think it's
Yeah,
more heartbreak. But
it's gonna be.
suppose if Pochettino walks out, having got the two finals, he'll look at it as he'll point to it and say, "Well, I got the two finals. I might not have won them, but we were beat
I
by
mean,
teams who are in better positions than us." He might argue.
as much as Chelsea are, who'd they get? They got Leicester, didn't they? I think that'll be a tough game as well because Leicester plays some
Mm.
football, and it'll be.
Well, let's speak about the draw because, as you say, Chelsea get Leicester. I mean, the only maybe advantage you look at that is Leicester might have by that stage may have their sights set on winning that league because their gap at the top's now cut to 6 points. It hasn't been as low as that for a long time because Leeds are really stepping it up.
Yeah,
And it looks like at the minute that Leeds could push Leicester all the way for that. So obviously the top two still go up, but I think you would still like to win the league, especially when you've been up
yeah.
there all season at the top. Um, Chelsea away will be a free hit, as you say, but you know, I just think if Chelsea, if he other than Coventry, I mean that's a dream draw with the teams that were left to get Leicester at home. But I mean the big news on the draw is Man United against Liverpool, and it's likely to be scheduled on St Patrick's Day. Obviously,
Because we
Liverpool
have
play on
Europe.
the Thursday night before, so it cannot be played Friday, Saturday. And there's an international break following the Sunday's games, which means no games are scheduled on a Monday. So it points to it being on a Sunday. What time it'll be at is going to be an issue because I don't think the police will want it too
I
late
was
in the
going to say
day. I mean,
maybe.
they're scheduled to kick off at 3:30 in their Premier League game. I mean, I think fans will be happy with 3:30, but I've got a funny feeling because it's the FA Cup, because it's St Patrick's Day, this could be scheduled earlier. I mean, what's your thoughts on the draw?
I mean, to be honest, I was hoping that anyone but Man City was my thinking. I just I want to if we get through this, then if we get the semis and then face Man City, then obviously you're going to get them at some point because they're going to go through. But hey, playing United in a cup in St Patrick's Day, you can't write it any better than that. But obviously I would have preferred it to be in Anfield. But hey, uh, it's also
Is it a dangerous game for Liverpool? But I know that like Liverpool are a much better team, but there was a massive overconfidence when they played them before Christmas. People were saying 5, 6, 7. This could be any score. It only ended up in a 0-0 draw. Man United away. I know Liverpool have had some great victories there over the last few years. There's a couple of 5-0s in there, I think.
it was 5-0, and then I can't remember. 5-0 was definitely one, and
Was
always
it
I can't
5-0,
remember.
6-0? I can't remember. There was two massive scorelines in there. I think at Old Trafford, but there has been some bad defeats in there at Old Trafford too. When Liverpool have been a better team, so
Yeah.
Roy Keane was saying last night this is not an easy tie for Liverpool. And make no mistake about it, United will put up a fight at home. Well,
No,
how do you? I mean, do you see that as a 50-50 tie?
even because it's an Old Trafford, probably. But I'm still saying if we don't beat them, I'll be very disappointed. Very
Darn,
disappointed because
4-2 or 4-1. He can't make his mind up.
United
Um,
aren't United aren't scoring 2 goals against us.
mm,
But no, it'll be a tough game. But I would still expect us to go through. Hopefully, between now and then, there's no more. We don't have to roll out. We can roll out some of the big boys because I think we'll need them for that game as much as the youngsters have done well. But if you want to win these cups, you're gonna draw big teams eventually. So
the
I
only
think
thing about that game is both teams will go super strong because there's
yeah,
no game, no club game for 2 weeks after that because it's not right before an international break. Well, obviously it'll depend on what state the teams are on when they get there. Now United are going to have a lot more free time between now and then because they're not in Europe. They don't have games they play, so they'll be the fresher team going into it. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, I do fancy Liverpool to get through, but I don't think it's going to be as easy as some people think.
no, definitely it never is. Whether it's at Anfield or Old Trafford, they always put up a fight as long as we won it. But putting them out of a cup too, that's just funny. But I want to win both games. It's always the game I look out for in the calendar. Liverpool v United. That's always the game, and getting
Right.
them in a cup is a bonus.
Well, that's that. How many times do you play Man United in a cup FA Cup quarter final? It doesn't really happen. Like, do you know
Last
what I mean? I
time,
can't remember.
last time we played them in the FA Cup was the last time we got the final and lost. I think Dirk Kuyt scored, if I remember right. Someone can correct me on that, but I
That was a long
definitely
time
remember.
ago.
It was like 10, 12 years ago. Kenny Dalglish was the manager. I remember that.
Yes. He's repeat, weren't he? 2-1.
No, I think we beat them.
Oh, did you? Right. Can't mind now, but well, there you go. Going back to Kenny Dalglish's days. So, and this is a quarter
Was
final too. So, I mean, this is huge. I mean, um, I just think the only unfortunate thing, and we're going to find out in the next few days, is I have a wild bad feeling the police are going to make this not as pleasurable. I think it's going to be an early kickoff because if you remember, they scheduled West Brom to play Wolves in the FA Cup at 11:45 on a Sunday.
we've seen
So,
how that we've seen how that ended.
well, of course, it didn't. I mean, it didn't do anything. Just, I mean, it was still bar at the game. Now, the difference
Yeah.
being these two teams play each other a lot more often than West Brom and Wolves do. But there's a lot at stake here. Like Man United's season could be on the line. It's a bank holiday week. Now, I know it's not a bank holiday weekend in England. It's a bank holiday weekend over here, but there's a lot of Irish, in Liverpool and Manchester as well. That'll be looking forward to this game. So, I mean, I just have a bad feeling this game's going to be very early in the day. And that might take it away from being the spectacle that it might. But look,
As long as at the end of the day I'm celebrating and an FA Cup semi-final, I won't care.
James saying she'd have 5 or 6 players back before then. I mean,
Mm.
quarter-final draw. Wolves or Coventry? Who do you fancy in that?
You'd have to say Wolves, wouldn't you?
Wolves at home. Chelsea, Leicester.
Chelsea, just
Chelsea.
Man City at home
to Newcastle.
Man City all day. Newcastle or draws me.
And Man United against Liverpool.
I mean, do you expect me to say anything? Man United won. No, Liverpool won.
So I would leave Liverpool, Man City, Newcastle, and Wolves. Now, if it was Man City, Chelsea, Wolves, and you'd probably say Chelsea. They're probably the more favourable tie if you were to get anyone in the semis. But even looking at that, do you think is it written for Pep and Klopp? They haven't met in a cup final before at Liverpool and Man City. I'm not sure if they've met at all in our clubs in a cup final.
I don't
think
they did at Dortmund and Bayern.
They definitely haven't met in a cup final here. So,
no.
I mean, do you think is it written for Klopp's last game to be against Pep at Wembley?
I mean, it would be poetic, wasn't it? Because that's the rivalry since Klopp and Pep have come on. Remember? Oh.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Would not surprise me. The funny thing is, the Premier League and the FA Cup will work together that weekend. They make sure there's no Premier League games overlapping the FA Cup, so everyone gets their fair share of TV coverage. BBC aren't, on a fight with Sky about who's watching what game. So, funny enough, with last night's results, Everton were to play Liverpool at 2:00 on the Sunday. That game is now wiped out. And Brighton Man City was 4:30. So Sky's coverage on the Sunday is wiped out. The 12:30 on the Saturday was Arsenal Chelsea. That's wiped out. The only live Premier League game that weekend is Saturday at 5:30. So I don't think there'll be an FA Cup game at 5:30. My educated guess would be there will be a Friday night quarterfinal that ITV have been promoting these Friday night games as their big audience because there's been the Masked Singer on a Saturday night and stuff, or another TV show on a Saturday. So I would imagine if I had an inkling, I think maybe Man City Newcastle could be the Friday night game.
Liverpool United on the Sunday.
And then there'll be a Saturday lunchtime game, either Chelsea Leicester or Wolves Coventry. And then and then there'll be two games on the Sunday, one being early and one being slightly later. But I do agree with Darren. I would normally the headline game is later, but I have a feeling that the police will schedule this early.
It's a shame too, isn't it? Because we know who. Oh, Pellegrini.
Pellegrini. Yeah, somebody's answered that. Yeah,
we lost on pens.
What were you saying there? Sorry.
It's a shame in these big games the police have to have an impact, but it's just you always get the odd idiot who'll say something about tragedy chatting on both sides, and then obviously that doesn't help the situation. So you can see why it's going to get scheduled fairly, but I would love it at 4:00 on a Sunday or something.
Confirmation of that game likely probably in the next Thursday. I would say by Monday we'll probably know. So we'll probably find out on Monday or Tuesday at the latest when that game will be, or what. It's going to be a Sunday, but by all means because of Liverpool's European commitments. But what time? I'm telling you what time it'll be significant because I'll tell you what, if it's an early day, that means everybody in St. Patrick's Day is going to be out a little bit earlier. That means more trouble for the police probably here. So you just hope everyone's in their best behavior.
I hope in the European game before I hope we have that wrapped up so we don't have to really worry worry about it.
Pretty much about it. Mm.
Yeah.
Interestingly, your European games are scheduled in between two massive games: Prague away before Man City, and Prague at home before. Um, I mean, in this scenario, I think Liverpool would have rather had the home draw first and just
Oh,
beat
100
Prague
100%.
4-5 at home, and then you can send the reserves out to Prague, because you go out to Prague and it could still be tight after Prague, depending on the result.
It's like, hey, that's the price you pay for being a decent team, and you only won all these competitions. You wouldn't know nothing about that, obviously. But
Well, funny enough, David, to his
yeah,
credit, Roy Keane said that last night. If you're Liverpool, you want to be in this position. You don't want to
right.
be
You
sitting
want to
for
be
3 weeks.
obviously for players it's probably awful, but for us as fans, like I just love seeing Liverpool on the TV, watching us every week. So I'm not complaining.
Mm. Callum's writing into me here about managers, and I told him he was watching the darts tonight. The darts could be that good tonight if he's on here. But
What did I say?
let's look ahead to the weekend. The Manchester Derby takes centre stage. As we said at the top of the show, has it lost its glamour a wee bit? One thinks it slightly has. But I mean, there's still an inkling hope, a burning sensation within one's body, thinking, do you know what? This is Man United going to Man City. They have to put up a performance. I mean, how much confidence do you, as a rival fan to Man City, and Arsenal fans as well, obviously, how much confidence do you have of Man United getting anything on Sunday?
None. Like, as
Sort of
much
scope
as
for an expectation.
uh, I'm not going to say they're going to go and get beat 5-6-0, but as we said on Tuesday, Man City will go 2-0 up and just stroll their way through the game. They'll kill United through possession, and that'll be it. That'll be all she wrote. And then we'll move on to Man City next week and hope we can do something. But no, I've no. Man United too. I don't think Haaland's fit for this game, if I'm right.
No, he's not.
So they don't have a striker. They're going to play Rashford up front, and we'll speak about him later on, I'm assuming, because he's had a lot to say today. But no, I can't see it.
Well,
I think
well,
man,
I mean, where do you think Rashford's at in his career now? Because is he 25, 26?
I think he's 20. I think he's coming 27.
So he's getting to that peak age of his career. He's had stop-start seasons. He's had one great season, then not followed it up, and then it's come back, and it seems like a bit of a yo-yo career. This has probably been his most turbulent in terms of the press, the media. I mean, do you think it's time for everyone, Rashford and United, that would be best in everyone's interest? They part ways in the summer. Do you think it both need a change?
It could be from like United fans have been getting on his back all season because of his. It's not even his lack of performances; it's his lack of effort. Like you
Mm,
see him if he loses the ball, his body language. Even last night, I heard I had the United game on in the background, just listening to it because obviously I was interested to see if they would get through or not. But I heard Shearer saying like his body language doesn't look right. He doesn't look at himself, and obviously he
mm.
had the whole Belfast situation. So for me, I think it'd be best for all of them just to cut ties and say thanks for your service, but you need to move on. And it's where he goes ends the problem. Maybe PSG. I think that's his most likely
I just don't think
destination.
that would
But
be a good move for him. I think he
no,
needs to rebuild somewhere, but not. I don't think PSG would be the right place. I'm not sure.
do you do you think he would play for another English team?
Um, it's hard to know where he's. It's hard to know where his desire is. If he really wants to, does he go the same way as Dele Alli does? I know there's a lot of injuries and a lot of mental health issues, but I think Dele Alli lost that fire in his belly. They play football, and I just worry that Rashford could be going the same way.
No. Is Dele Alli still technically a Spurs
He's
player?
still at Everton. He can't get fit. I don't think you'll ever see him again, to be honest. But again, we'll maybe speak about that on our day if he ever does return. I mean, it was only a couple of weeks ago. I think United went to Villa and won, and Gary Neville and Roy Keane and I think Rio Ferdinand was saying on his podcast, and Scholes was coming out in BT saying, "Oh, United are favourites for top four now. They're going to get in. They're going to get in." I mean, I never really felt under any
Neither did I.
pressure. Obviously, being a Spurs fan, they're fighting meals for them places. But I mean, do you think that was very premature to suggest that United were going to really go on this great run and they're going to steamroll themselves into the top four contention? Because Carragher, and we'll speak about him in a wee minute, but the result against Fulham was no different than when we've seen a lot of the result was different, but the performance was quite similar. against Fulham, to the Wolves game, for example, at the start of the season. I mean, playing that way, it's going to be very difficult to get on a consistent run and beat teams convincingly. I mean, Fulham, who have an awful away record, went to Old Trafford, haven't won there since 2001 or 2003, I think it is.
That was
And
a long time ago.
I mean, they could have been in a sight in the first half.
It was the same as Luton. I know they went 2-0 up against Luton, but Luton had the chances. They pull that game back and won 3-2, 4-2. Aston Villa had the chances to kill them off. So, as you say, the result against Fulham just sort of, that result was coming for me. And I've been saying it since they've been on the 4 or 5 match winning run. Like, they don't convince me. And once a bad result comes out, you've seen it. The dressing room's leaking against the manager, and it just doesn't seem like a happy camp, even with all these new changes going on at the top of the club. It just doesn't seem happy. And it's a strange one because with all them ones, you were thinking, right, they're going to push on now, but I never really got that confidence as a rival fan that they were going to go on and push on. So for me, it's between Spurs and Aston Villa to get that fourth spot.
I mean, last night they got a great one. In the end, it was hard work, but getting through to the quarterfinal, and again, Ten Hag was fronting up and Fernandes fronting up. I mean, if you're Ten Hag's had a lot of media talk this week, and we'll speak about it in a minute. But before we do, if you're Ten Hag in the change room on Sunday, what kind of feeling do you think he's got behind closed doors when he looks around that dressing room? Like you mentioned Rashford, and I do agree with your criticism on Rashford, but I think he's been scapegoated, kind of like how Maguire has been on previous seasons. I think there's a lack of effort amongst a lot of players, especially when it's against a tough opposition. How many of them players do you think Ten Hag's counting on, or would hang his hat on, counting and turning up on Sunday at Man City? Because this away record's been poor, and only one at Villa. They got a good draw at Liverpool, but Liverpool missed a lot of chances. I mean, how many of them do you think he's sitting and going, do you know what, he'll turn up today? Or do you think he's thinking, please God, I hope these boys put a performance on the day, because I don't think he believes that this team's going to go to Man City and get anything.
No, you know what? The only player that I can think of that really gets it is, and it's sad because he's a young lad, is Casemiro. I think he's been really good since he's come in, but putting him in a big game like that, and if they do get a good beating, it could knock his confidence. So it could always have a knock-on effect. But you know what? Even though he scored last night, I think Casemiro's been very poor this season. I know it's another cliche to say, but it reminds me of Fabinho last season. His legs just went they're just passing him by in the middle. I think he's been very poor. And you look at the defense.
It's going to be a different kind of game against Man City, but they're not going to be as open. Kind of like Anfield, where I think might suit them in a way, because when they're playing these games against teams they're expected to beat, or teams that Man United are expected to beat on reputation, it's a bit of like an open game, and there's space. They're not going to play that way against Man City. They're going to be difficult. They're going to try and be difficult to break down, which may I don't think that's Ten Hag's way of playing, but I think in this way, Man City will just push them back in a way, and I think in a way it'll suit them. But it's where they can stick it, for the 90 minutes, which I don't think they will. But I mean,
it's Man United. Like once they go 1-0 down, their heads just drop, and then it goes 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're back at the same cycle.
They conceded 6 here last year in a 6-3 defeat. I mean, Haaland and Haaland got hat-tricks, and 2 of them are in great form at the minute. So I wonder if it could go the same way as last year. Darren saying United will have a low block sit in and see if they can have City in the break. Well, I think that's the only thing they've got at the moment.
They can't go to the tour; they'll get battered.
I don't think we've talked about a manager as much as we have about Ten Hag in this podcast all season, and he made more headlines as well. Possibly, but I don't think Poch has been on the media as much. I think Ten Hag's been he's been dead this week anyway. He made it his business to talk about Carragher's analysis on Monday Night Football. I mean, I was listening to Danny Murphy in Talk Sport. I thought he made a great point of why he get involved, and he wasn't just, to be fair, he wasn't being biased. He wasn't just. I think he referenced the Klopp and Bonahor thing when he had a go at Bonahor. He says, I don't know why Klopp did that. So he was being, he wasn't just being biased towards Man United. But he said, Ten Hag, you're the manager, you're in the hot seat. Carragher's sitting in Sky. 2 completely different places in football. Although Carragher's he's very well liked and he does a good role in his punditcy. Manager Man United's a different stratosphere. why do you think he's responded to Carragher? I mean, in a funny way, he had a go with Carragher, but then agreed with him a few minutes later, saying he was probably right with the first half analysis. I mean, is he a man under pressure at the moment? Because he's come out today and had a go with Fulham as well about their video on Fernandes. I mean, he just seems to be looking for an angle everywhere. Is he trying to deflect away from Man United's poor performances?
That's it, and probably because Carragher has the ex-Liverpool name as well, so Ten Hag's probably thinking he's having to go with up.
It's an easy stick to beat him with.
Ten Hag's probably thinking, oh, he's one of our rivals, legend players, so he's just having to go at us. But you're spot on. He's feeling the pressure, and every week you're seeing stories of Ten Hag's not going to be there in the summer. Then the owners are backing them. So for him, he probably doesn't even know if he's going to be there in the summer or not. So
I think he's got a feeling that he won't be, and I think he's fighting tooth and nail to keep his job at the moment. I think Gary Neville summed it up quite well, that there's no way they're waiting to the end of the season, especially with Liverpool and Bayern Munich and possibly even Real Madrid looking for new managers. There's no way United are waiting to the final day of the season to see if they get top four. They're going to look at this as a whole and think, even if we get Champions League football, is there enough improvement and they see us kicking on? So I think the decision's probably already made, and they're probably just trying to get the end of the season. And maybe Ten Hag feels he has to fight tooth and nail to keep his job. Maybe that's why, I don't know.
But then if they do sack him, who do they get? They're not going to get a Pep. They're not going to get Klopp. Obviously, they're not going to get maybe De Zerbi, but like De Zerbi's been with the Liverpool job, and as much as I think
tell me it's right, because I was listening to Talksport. I'm a big Talksport fan. Andy Goldstein and Darren Bent be on Drive, and they says that with all these new managers looking for clubs in the summer. I think Rio Ferdinand brought this idea up about Arteta. I don't know if he was being serious, but it's kind of blew up about, Arteta would leave Arsenal for Man United. So I'm not going to ask you that question. If Liverpool and Man United and Real Madrid and Bayern Munich all go for the same manager, say they all want one individual.
Yep.
And let's just say in this instance, it's not shabby because Alonso's got ties to Liverpool. Let's say it's a manager that's got no ties to any of the four clubs. Where do you think Man United... Are Man United bottom of that, or do you think a manager will look beyond them and think this is Man United, they're the biggest? How do you see it? I mean, can United get any manager in the world that they want, or do you think they've fallen down that pecking order at the moment? How do you see it?
I think based on the name of Man United, like they're a big institution. They're as much as it pains me to say it, they're the biggest club in England. Like there's no. Like they're the biggest club in England. They're always going to attract the best managers and the best players. But I do think at the minute, I think Arsenal's a more attractive job. So I do think if there's managers coming up, they're going to look at a Liverpool or a Bayern Munich or Real Madrid and think, I have more chance of success there than I do at United. And I think it's to do as well.
I think it's a bit of arrogance. I think it's a lot of arrogance because, all right, they're a big club, but they'll look at a smart manager will look at the foundations, the setup, not just the club. Liverpool at the moment are a far better run club than Man United. I know these new ownerships coming in, but it's very early days. You don't know how that's going to go. All of a sudden, it looks like the signs are positive. But judging by how the United fans felt about the Glazers, it couldn't get any worse. It was always going to get more positive with Radcliffe coming in. Ask them in 2 years' time if they still feel the same way. But I still think a manager will look beyond that and look, well, Arsenal at the moment are flying because although Arteta's done a great job, he's had the right foundations. Klopp's had the right foundations in place. The youth system's flying at Liverpool, but that's not just down. Yes, Klopp's having a big impact on the playing style, but there's also a lot of talent ID and a lot of recruitment, a lot of directors involved. So it's a massive, massive scheme that everyone's on board on. And I just think United at the moment are way behind the times.
Like it's me, like I'm one of FSG's probably big critics, but the way they've run the club, like we're nowhere near FFP trouble. We're a good. I know there's a lot of change in this. There's going to be a lot of change in the summer. We're looking to bring a sporting director in. We know who they want. Whether they get him or not is a different question. But it's like even at Arsenal, like they have a good structure there. Chelsea's a mess. United's a mess. It's so I think Liverpool, Arsenal, Madrid, and Bayern. Like if a manager's looking at that, they're thinking, I'd rather take one of them jobs than United at the minute.
It will be interesting. I mean, do you see the Liverpool accounts today? Pretty good reading for Liverpool fans.
Seen that.
But of course, then, as I said earlier on in reference to Ten Hag, we can argue with that beating with a stick. I mean, it's an hour stick for you to beat FSG if they don't spend.
I
So
actually,
it's I don't know where
I
to put
actually
that.
seen, I actually seen today as well. There's reports that for the summer, Liverpool are looking for centre backs and wingers. So I don't know if that has anything to do with Salah or not, but we'll see.
Have you heard it all before? But this is the big summer.
I don't know if this will be a back. To be fair to them, last summer, as much as I was going mad at a point, I think last summer has proven to be good for this season.
Sure, according to you, you've got Endo, so no need to sign a defensive midfielder. We've got Endo.
At the minute, maybe in
Let's focus back on the
couple of
derby,
years.
and let's speak about Man City. I mean, we've seen it on Tuesday, and we touched on it earlier. But I mean, can these two really turn the screw and force the title? Not obviously it's going to be difficult for all three teams, Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, because the consistency level at the moment is quite high. You almost feel like a draw is a missed opportunity, or almost like a loss. But
Yep.
as I said, it's almost like Arsenal and Liverpool are searching for a key to open a door. And Man City have that key, and De Bruyne and bringing him back and lights Haaland. So if them two are fit and at it just makes it so much more difficult for Liverpool and Arsenal, doesn't it?
100%. Like as we spoke about earlier, De Bruyne's the best midfielder in the world. Haaland's the best striker in the Premier League, probably the world as well. You could argue Harry Kane, but it's scary for opposition fans such as myself and Arsenal fans. But you see it all the time. De Bruyne gets an injury, it keeps him out for a couple of months, and then comes back at the business end. So, if them two weren't fit, I'd be a lot more confident of Liverpool going on. They finish the job than I
Well,
am.
that's it. I think if empty ain't fit, that's as favours they are to. I think
But
if De Bruyne doesn't play in our game this season, it becomes a 33% chance each, in my opinion.
yeah,
I think
not
at the minute the
saying
favourite Man City with these two, but
not saying we will, but if we do go and beat Man City next week, then the whole it changes again. But let's focus on.
well, you know what? I'm obviously going to the Spurs game on Saturday, but I'm looking forward to next weekend's football because that's going to be a massive game.
I think
Obviously,
it's
being a football fan, it's going to be
Villa,
interesting.
Villa Spurs too before that, isn't it?
That's it. You couldn't probably ask for two better games on a Sunday if based on this season's football. That is your two, other than Arsenal. But I mean, you couldn't ask for that on next Sunday. I mean, if all the Spurs is going to go at each other because that's how the two teams play. So that's going to be goals, you'd imagine. And then obviously Liverpool Man City is just it's a game for the ages because we've seen what Liverpool Man City games have been like over the last number of years. So I mean, Sunday the 10th of March. I mean, Mother's Day, boys. Tell your ma's, see them on the 9th. Tell them Happy Mother's Day, and just make sure you're free on the Sunday.
Mine's is already been told. Hey, loving him's mine on Sunday. Sorry, but no, it's that's it. Liverpool. I
Six
think.
players back, you reckon?
Well, I don't think if I'm going. Hopefully no injuries between now and then. But if I'm going off memory, I think it'll be. I'm going to say Kelleher and net. I don't think Alisson will be back.
I knew this was going to happen. I was thinking I'm going to chat about the Manchester derby, but Liverpool fans in the comments, Liverpool fan on, we've talked more about Liverpool Man City than about Manchester Man City this weekend.
that sort of shows where that game's at, though, isn't it?
It does. I mean,
but,
one thing that we do. Sorry, go ahead.
Getting back to the United City game, I really can't see anything other than a Man City win, which I don't want it to be. I would.
The only final one. We all sat here a few weeks ago.
Yep.
Man City were going to play Chelsea, and we all said 3 points. Chelsea have no chance. And this is a similar type of game. Everyone's expecting City to beat, and it's not like playing a. Don't want to be disrespectful, but it's not like playing Sheffield United. These teams do have quality that can hurt you on their day. Let's just say Bruno does turn up, he can be a handful. Rashford turns up. He's done it against Man City before, so there's quality in there. If United turn up like Chelsea did, Sterling had a great game. Could have scored a few more goals. Jackson obviously could have scored, but Chelsea went to Man City and gave them problems. And Man City have shown a little bit of vulnerability in defence this season. So I mean, a lot of pressure on Man City. Is there any chance United could catch them out?
There is, but no, I just can't see it. I'm sorry. I just think United, as much as they can put a surprise out on their day, I just think Man City will see this as an opportunity even more stamp their authority on the fixture than they already have. But you're right, man. So they have been vulnerable in defence. Like even though they scored five, they aren't or six. What was it? Five or six? It was six, wasn't it?
Six, six.
They conceded two, so they are giving up
Mm.
chances. So it will be. I could
One of
see.
them was unstoppable.
Uh, I could see United getting
That
a
was an
goal,
absolute screamer.
but I can see Man City getting two or three. That's the problem.
Mm. So you're expecting Man City to win this weekend. You're expecting to beat Newcastle in the cup. That leaves
Yeah.
them. Well, we don't know how next week's game going to go, but they could be sitting top of the league come next Sunday. It could be an
Next
FA Cup
Saturday.
semi-final by the end of March, and they look like they're going to be at least in the quarter-final of the Champions League, and
Yeah.
one of the favourites they want. I mean, are we starting to get that feeling that we did last year that there's a possibility of another treble? I mean, at the minute, do you feel? Because I'm starting to think at the minute, I'm thinking who's going to stop this Man City team in a cup, and maybe Liverpool in a final, maybe. But that's at the minute. That's you don't know if they're going to meet or when they're going to meet. But Champions League, I look at their threats. I look at Real Madrid possibly, Arsenal maybe. But again, I still favour Man City. I mean, they're favourites in all four. They're all in the three competitions. I mean, how do you see it? I mean, is there any? Do you think they could do it again?
I hope not because well, you know my feelings on Man City, but I don't think they'll do a treble now. I think they'll miss out on one of them. Now if you're asking me which one, I would to me I think the FA Cup is the one they'll miss out on because I don't think they'll care about that as much. So I think they might
Mm.
take their eye off the ball on that. I mean, but if they do win a second treble, I hope it means Guardiola passes off. Like so,
Before we
what
get into
more?
the Premier League, predictions, I'm
Yeah.
going to ask you for some quick fire answers. All right. So
Okay.
Premier League winners are who?
I'll say it. I'll stick with Liverpool. Stick with Liverpool.
Champions League winners.
I'm gonna say Man City.
Europa League winners.
Liverpool.
And FA Cup winners.
Liverpool.
So Liverpool, the four trophies. I'll be
I'm,
some
I'm,
season on that.
I'm say, see if we do that and that finishes off with Klopp. I think if it is Alonso, I would just retire. But okay, I'm not taking the job. No more I can do.
Let's look ahead to the Premier League games this weekend. Interestingly, no 12:30 game this weekend, so you have to wait until 3 o'clock for
I'll
the
be
Premier League football to start this weekend, which is unusual. I'm not sure why that is, but that is this weekend. Maybe they're
maybe
saving
because it's
themselves for
FA
games
Cup
down the line.
week, is it?
I'm not sure because your team's playing Thursday nights and there's games on a
Yeah.
Saturday. It's 12:30, but I'm not sure. I know BT have a round of games in April where they're showing nearly every game live. Maybe it's something to do with that. I don't know. Maybe they're certain. There was 1 hour weekend this year. There wasn't a 12:30 or 8 o'clock game. But obviously when there's usually no 12:30, it's because they've got the 8 o'clock, but there's no 8 o'clock game either. So I think for the first time this season, and some of the older fans that watch this podcast will be used to this, there's 6 games kicking off at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, which used to be. I remember when I was growing up, there was always 6 on a Saturday.
That's right there.
Usually now there's 4 or 5 max. There's 6 this
Mm.
weekend. So plenty of football, 3 o'clock. They
I'll
enjoy a
be
lot of.
I'll be getting my illegal streaming on.
Streaming on. So we'll do these in alphabetical order.
Yep.
Brentford take on Chelsea. Now Brentford's record against Chelsea has been superb over the last few seasons. I think they've beat them 3 times in a row. They're looking for their second double over them in 2 seasons. Hard one to call because Brentford probably they wouldn't carry your confidence as much as they have in recent seasons.
Yeah.
Scoring goals again, they scored 2 at West Ham, but still conceded 4. So they're leaking goals like a colander at the minute. Tony's come back. Yes, he's scoring goals and assisting goals, but they just cannot stop conceding. And Brentford cannot be conceding 4 goals and 3 goals every week.
I mean,
Chelsea,
they're only what? They're only 5 points above relegation, like so they have to watch themselves, dude.
this is it, and things can change very quickly in this game.
I
And
think
Chelsea, as we say, are very consistent.
if I remember, you tipped Brentford to go down, didn't you?
But did I back in Christmas time?
Christmas time.
But I think this is before I knew the Forest. and
Yeah,
Everton were going to be done again. I always thought Everton would get points back, so I'd never put them on
yeah,
there, and they did. But they could be done again, and if Forest are done again, I think if they were 5 behind now and possibly more behind after
yeah.
that, I don't see
Forest
how
will
they
be
would win
fine.
4 or 5 games. I think Brentford have at least 1 or 2 wins on them between now and
Yeah,
then. So I think Brentford are going to be one of them teams like Crystal Palace. Maybe they could improve now under Glasner, but they've been fortunate that teams are being punished. I think Luton might be the unlucky ones where teams just haven't been punished
just
enough.
a
I
bit,
think
bridge too
they
far.
might be the ones that, unless they can start stringing results together again, I just think it could be between them and Forest for
Yeah.
that drop. But we'll see. As I says, Brentford, we know what we're going to get. Goals. Chelsea are inconsistent. I mean, how do you see this game going? Bit of a derby game as well, London derby.
I can't remember. I think we went through these on Tuesday, but I can't remember what my prediction was. So I'll give a. I'll go 1-1. Brentford will get a draw.
Brentford. James saying 2-0 to Chelsea. Um, Everton take on West Ham. Now, again, Everton probably had their biggest boost in weeks when they got them 4 points back because they haven't won a game since middle of December. So that was the best one they've had, getting them points back. West Ham were on a very bad run as well. They only got their first one of 2024 on Monday night against Brentford. Significantly, Paqueta was back, and they looked like a different team going forward. I think he's one of them players, one that just makes likes of Bowen and Kudos better. And you look at Antonio back now, so things are looking up for West Ham. But Everton will look at this as an opportunity because West Ham, as you said, have them in great form. So how do you see this game go?
Um, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go 2-1 West Ham. I think. I think West Ham just have that bit more quality than Everton do at the up at the top of the pitch, as especially with Paqueta being back and Jared Bowen being on form. He scored a hat trick the other night, didn't he?
Our
So
guests were favouring Chelsea in the first game. Very split on this one. You're saying 2-1 West Ham. I actually
yeah,
already say for that first game, I actually fancy a draw in that first game. I fancy 1-1 as well. I'm going to agree with you on. This game, I'm torn on too. But I've just got a feeling for Everton this weekend. I think this is the game they won. I think it's
and
been a good week
then
for them if they can win this. So I'm just
we'll
going
hear
to
the
just going
we'll,
to tap them 2-1.
we'll hear the Moyes out chants again then.
Well, that's that though. They're never far away when they get beat. Fulham, Brighton. Now this could be an entertaining game because we know both teams will go at it. Seen Fulham last week; they had no fear going to Old Trafford. We know Brighton are our team don't usually travel well, but again, goals usually follow Brighton as well. So some good games at 3 o'clock. There's a lot of these
Yeah.
games you would have thought maybe selected for TV, but haven't been. How do you see this game go?
I'm gonna go 2-2. I agree with you. I think it's gonna be goals. I think it's gonna be entertaining. I'll go 2-2.
2-2. Funny because Brighton's form hasn't been that great, but they find
Yeah,
themselves in a great position in the league, sitting 7th, 8th. Fulham are kind of safe now, but they've nothing to go for because they're out of both cups, so they might try and focus to get themselves higher up the league. Brighton are going to be running the congestion soon because of the Europa League. They got a tough draw too away at Roma, or Roma first. I think they play Roma away first, then play them at home, but that'll be difficult for them.
that'll be a fun
So,
game to watch too. Roma Brighton.
because all of a sudden Roma are playing attacking football now, way under
Yeah,
Rossi, so different
right.
style of play. Um, Again, hard to decide. I'm going to go Ewan. I think you might be far away here, 2-2. Um, let's see what's happening here. Darren saying Fulham 2-1 meets 2-1 Fulham. James saying 2-1 again. I think it's one of them ones
But
hard to call. Newcastle Wolves.
this one is
Again,
hard
on
to
our
call as
game,
well.
you'd
This
expect goals in these games as well. Newcastle are scoring goals, conceding a lot. Wolves are a dangerous team, as Spurs have found out this year, as Chelsea's found out, as Man City's found out. So they can go anywhere and get a result.
Yep.
And they just had a great week.
They
But I heard last night that O'Neill was saying the players are a bit tired and stuff. So
yeah.
maybe we playing a lot of football could catch up with them. And
But then
Newcastle are 2-1, I think.
Newcastle went the extra time as well, so
Mm.
I don't know.
And Newcastle are funny at the moment. They're 1 week they look like they're getting back on track. And then the other week they're getting ripped apart. So it's hard.
I think I might go for an hard draw here. You know? I might go. I'm
Draws
gonna go on R.
specialists.
I'm gonna go on R 2-2. I just it's hard to pick between these two. 2-2.
I
I'm gonna
figure
go
he's 2-2.
two
Wolves
one
3-1.
Wolves.
Just going to favour Newcastle. I'm going to say it's going to be goals as well. I'm going to say 3-2 Newcastle. I think
Have
this
I
may be the
predicted?
pick of the 3 o'clock. I think this could be the pick of the 3 o'clock games. I think this could be the best in terms of goals.
Have I predicted draws in every match so far? I think I have.
You haven't been far away. I had James saying Newcastle with the Dogs. I'm going to tap them to get back on track this weekend. Now, this will be the biggest in terms of what people are looking at 3 o'clock. Nottingham Forest taking on Liverpool. Now, I've had some great. I haven't been analysing them, but I just recall results. I've had some great picks over the last few weeks. I tapped Villa. They lose to United when nobody's seen Villa losing. There was another game as well where nobody's seen, and I called it as well. Can't mind what it was. Oh, there was
No, I
another
can't.
game.
I can't remember. I think. What did I? I think I.
My point being that I've got an hour feeling this weekend there's going to be a bit of a twist in this game. So, and I'll let you go first. How do you see this game go?
I do remember what I predicted on Tuesday for this. I said 2-1 Liverpool, and I'm going to stick with that. As I said to you earlier on, if
He says what?
Forest 2-1, they us.
2-1.
I said to you earlier on 4-2. I said to you earlier on, if Forest gave us the chances that they gave United, we'll blow them away.
Blow them away.
Aye, if we have Nunez and Salah on Saturday, we blow them away if they play the way they did last time.
Did you watch Nottingham Forest against Arsenal in January, and then you watch them against Spurs in December? They will play a different game they did against. They probably fancy themselves against United because they beat them before, and they were 2 up at Old Trafford and lost that game. They should have won that game. So they've had a lot of success. I think they believe they could go to 2-2 United. They're not going to play the same way. No matter what team Liverpool have out on Saturday, whether it's all them kids or some of their players are back, they're going to play the way they did against Arsenal. They're going to sit back, soak it up, play in the counter-attack and set pieces under the box. And I think that's going to be difficult for Liverpool because I think this could be a game. When you're playing that many games, I think someone might catch you, and I think this might be the one. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw and a twist and a title race. Unfortunately,
to be fair, we lost our last season 1-0, but last season we were shocking. So.
If you look at all their results against the top teams since they've been promoted, they rarely get beat by more than 1 goal if they do against a top team because they play a very defensive style.
Didn't they draw with Man City last season?
They drew with Man City last year and beat Arsenal last year, beat Liverpool last year. So they'll be quite resilient, I think. And as you say, they're in a dogfight for us. They know they're in danger of going down, so this will be difficult.
No, 100%. I do think it'll be difficult, but I just think we'll nick it.
There's another game in recent week. I called it. Nobody else called. There's 2 of them. United was one, and the Villa. I can't mind the other one now.
It'll come to you when we're done to.
Maybe there'll be a team that hurts me. Now, an hour back game at 3 o'clock. I'll be there, and I'll be in attendance. I'm going to be keep an eye towards the south stand corner flag. I'm going to be sitting there a few rows from the front. So usually Spurs attack our second half. So if you see an unswinging corner from the left side, you might see me somewhere there. But I think a few weeks ago I looked at this game as a banker 3 points. I'm still confident the 3 points, but with a new manager coming in, it's made it a bit more in the dark. You don't know how Palace are going to play. There's no Elise in the Wesley, so that still hurts them.
No Gehi as well. He's out again.
He didn't make it, so they're missing their 3 best players. So when they went to
really
Arsenal, they got battered, didn't they? So
you can't really read on how they played against Burnley because everyone beats Burnley.
Well, Ireland, Burnley, or Sheffield United, I think you couldn't have hoped for a better game this weekend. And Spurs need to get back on track because there's been a few slips in recent weeks. So, well, they lost to Wolves, didn't they? There was a draw with Everton as well a few games before that. So they need to get back to being consistent because Villa have turned a bit of a corner. But I just think I think Spurs are due to beat somebody convincingly as well. So I'm hoping this is going to be the game.
Well, I know on Tuesday I said 2-1 Palace, but that was sort of just to wind you up. But no, I'm gonna go. I agree with Kieran. I'm gonna go 3-1 Spurs.
Spurs are also due a clean sheet, so I'm going to take away the 1 and put the 0 on there. I'm going to go for a 3-0 Spurs 1.
Is Porro fit?
Don't think so. I'm not sure yet. We'll know tomorrow when Ange speaks, but I don't think he's trained. Doggy's back, so at least they have 1 fullback back. So, but
for Spurs to be
Can't be making
successful,
excuses about a right back not playing.
but for Spurs to be successful, they need both of them like fully fit, in my opinion.
Definitely. We're a far better team when them two are playing.
I just
The
seen,
5:30 game.
I just
Go
seen
ahead,
today
sorry.
too that Eric Dyer's move to Bayern's been made permanent, which surprised me.
Because it's because he wasn't expected to play as many games. There was a clause in his
Aye,
contract if he played, and there's been
aye,
obviously Kim was away at South Korea. Ipa McKenna was injured, and then got suspended for a number of games, so they were forced to
aye,
kind of play him. So he ended up
aye,
making. Now it was for nominal fee; it was only a few million, but I think
aye.
he's now under contract until the following season, so it's worked out really well for Dyer. Luton against Villa. Now Luton have had the crossbar so many times at home this year against the big boys. They don't play any more of the big six at home, but this is probably as big as it gets. They beat Newcastle at home, but Villa are probably the only other team left they can get a scalp against. And we know Villa, they aren't the strongest travellers of the
No,
top teams, but Luton have, in recent weeks, they've been starting to leak a lot of goals. So
yeah,
maybe Villa are having a good time with Villa coming back on the form.
I think so. I'm gonna go 3-0 Villa. I think, as you say, Luton are leaking goals. I mean, they've scored, or sorry, they've conceded 6 the other night. The Man City.
James is back
Uh,
in Luton.
don't say it. They conceded 60 Man City. They conceded 2 to United, 4 to us. So I can't see
Mm.
them getting anything.
Tough one to call,
You think?
but I'm just going to favour Villa. I think 2-1 Villa.
I think Villa will blow them with the water.
Well, Villa are a funny team. 1 week they can do that, and then other weeks they let you down. So it'll be
Yeah.
interesting.
Will,
Now of
will
all the
they hope?
games they could have picked, of all the games they could have picked for the warm-up game for the Manchester Derby, they picked this one.
I'm not be
Why we
watching
don't
that to
know,
tell you.
but it'll be Burnley at Bournemouth at the earlier time of 1 o'clock.
Oof.
Burnley in most people's minds are gone, maybe even their own minds. We don't know, but
Yeah.
them and Sheffield are rooted to the bottom of 13 points, a long way off safety now. I think it's 11 or 12 points they're behind. So
Uh,
it's basically now it's when and not if they're relegated. So
yeah.
Bournemouth really need to get back on track. They've had a real wobble in the second half of the season. So suppose Burnley will look at this and think, do you know what? Maybe this is the right opponent. They build a bit of confidence and maybe try to finish the season with a bit of credit. But I just think Bournemouth they lost the other night to Leicester, didn't they? So they need to get back on track, and this is the perfect game for.
I agree. I can't see Burnley winning any game between now and the end of the season. To be fair, I think they're going. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go 2-1 Bournemouth.
I think it'll be comfortable as well. I'm going to go 2-0 Bournemouth. Darren and Meets are having a row here about picking all the same predictions. James saying 2-2. So a lot of people actually fancy a draw in that game, so be interesting. The Manchester Derby, you says earlier on you couldn't see anything but a Man City won.
No,
So how many goals did they win by?
I'm gonna go. I'm stuck between 3 and 4-1, but I'll go 3-1 Man City.
3-1 City. I'll go for the same score and you beat them at Old Trafford, and I'm going to go for a 3-0 City 1.
3-0. I'm
Just
before it's
can't
like
see
6. I'm before it's like 6-0.
James saying 5-0, Darren saying 4-0, so they all think big.
Nobody gives them a hope.
And finally, Monday Night Football sees bottom of the table Sheffield United take on Arsenal. Sheffield United are on course to be the worst defensive team ever in the Premier League, so they're projected to have
they've conceded like 70 goals from them.
Crazy. So I mean, Arsenal will be looking at this thinking goal difference again, because Arsenal's goal difference has went from the third best to the best, and they look at this now and think let's get a few more. So I mean, this could be an hour hammering session. Sheffield United have lost, I think, their last 2 home games 5-0.
I'm gonna go 6-0 Arsenal. I genuinely think it'll be a. I think it'll be a batter.
Meets the same 1-1 for the Manchester Derby. I think that's his head, that's his heart, not his head.
I thought he was saying for this. I thought he was saying 1-1 for this game. I thought he lost it.
Well, yeah, that's his. He can get away with saying 1-1 for that. I don't think he can get away with saying he fancies Sheffield about Arsenal.
I'm gonna go 6-0. I just think it'll be battered.
No, I'm going to be kind to Sheffield. I'm going to just say it's going to be 3-0. But I do fear for them. James saying 2-0. and that brings us to the end of this weekend's predictions.
Yeah.
So some big games to look forward to, and of course we're going to be building up the Liverpool Man City next week, which is going to be really, really interesting.
I'm scared.
Especially if both teams can get the one this weekend. Now, turning away from Premier League football, Derry City take on St. Pat's tomorrow night in the Brandywell. I
3-0
will be
Derry.
following them for Drive 105 in and around the Brandywell from probably about 6:30 up until 10 past 7 before the game. So anyone watching or anyone knows anyone, feel free to give me a
Big,
text and we can get you interviews.
big week for Derry too. Shamrock Rovers then on Monday.
Well, Shamrock Rovers on Monday, and obviously for anyone that can't get the Brandywell on Friday night, the game is on Virgin Media, and then the same on Monday night, the game's on RTE, so both games are televised. It is a sellout at the Brandywell. Sometimes when the game's on TV, some people don't go, but the Derry City fans at the minute are backing the team, and they're going to sell it out. So feel free to get involved with Drive 105. You'll be able to follow the content on social media. There'll be a video going out either tonight or tomorrow advertising the fan cams. So people know who to contact or get involved with. So if you know anyone, don't be feel shy to get involved. And then we'll be back on Monday or Tuesday, probably Tuesday night or Tuesday night. They look back on all these results. I will be at as well. And it's a busy weekend for me. I'll be going straight to the airport after the Brandywell because I'm going to London to watch Spurs against Crystal Palace. So tune in about 1:30. I'll be doing a video building up to the weekend's football live from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Owen, it's been a pleasure to have you on as always, and thanks very much.
Cheers.
And if you're new around here, make sure to like the channel and subscribe for more content. Darren just saying Saturday fixtures, looking forward to it. 6 points this week for Man City. Oh, he fancies Man City. He doesn't fancy Liverpool. I'm surprised at that. James as always.
You have to back your team.
Grass lads of the podcast. Boys, thanks very much for your views and your loyalty and watching the podcast. There's some big games coming up, and we'll be keeping it going right up until the end of the season. So, as you say, if you're new around here, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more content. Oh, and I'll see you next time.
Cheers.